I'm Jim Czek with Now Media, and with me Scott Dedels from Block Rewards, the sponsor of this show. And we got a cool headline today. The BC does not believe in the future. Pretty wild.
It's a shocking headline, maybe not for very many of your viewers, Jim.
Yeah, it's BC said that they took that temporary ban on fintech on Bitcoin mining and made it permanent.
Yeah. So in 2022, there was a ban instituted where you basically couldn't get an approval for an electrical hookup if the intended purpose was for mining Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. But basically, the only cryptocurrency that's actually mined is Bitcoin. So anytime that there's like a mining ban, they're talking about a Bitcoin ban. And it's just so that earlier this week that temporary ban was made permanent. You know, I love this phrase. There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government measure, and this proved to be no different.
That's the Canadian military motto. I had a couple of friends in the military, and they said it's only temporary unless it works.
Totally. Yeah.
Turns out all their temporary bans are permanent, right?
Yeah. And, you know, there's so much, we've talked about this a little bit here and there. There is so many misconceptions about Bitcoin mining. And, you know, obviously one of them, and I think why it's relevant here, the government said originally that it was about concerns over the stress and demand that it might put on energy consumption. And then the other half of it is kind of like the environmental impact. But like 80% of our electricity in BC is hydro. It's fully renewable. And Bitcoin mining and renewable energy are like peanut butter and jam. Like it makes so much sense where you can turn excess electricity or green energy into Bitcoin. It's like being able to move a gold deposit into your local jurisdiction. Like this, Bitcoin can be mined anywhere. And so the other thing that I think that people really don't understand, and Adrian Dix surely seems like he doesn't understand it, is that Bitcoin miners offer electricity producers something that's called flexible load demand. Bitcoin is basically the only thing where you can reliably dial up and dial down the energy consumption at scale. And so the Bitcoin miners, Mara is like the big Bitcoin miner in the US, and they have really established a symbiotic relationship with the Texas Energy Council, the Texas Energy Grid, and they buy their energy on the cheap, and because energy is the most important variable cost in mining Bitcoin, so they are negotiating energy on the cheap because they agree to only use it when it's off-peak times. And energy grids really aren't designed to store energy, and it's like this is just the way it goes.
The only way to store it is to store it in a battery or some type of battery. Like you could actually pump the water back up, but like Texas is very proactive in what they do with energy, and then Elon Musk has just made the statement at his the last investor call there, where he said that he could theoretically double the electrical grids in the United States without adding any more power dams or plants or anything, just through what you're just saying, by using battery. By then taking, because you typically have a sine wave for energy, like during the day, it's 4 o'clock, huge peak, and then it goes down at night and almost to nothing, and then up and down, you get the sine wave. So what he's saying, just what you just said, is you would just make it, actually, it's way better for the energy grid if you can make it kind of like consistent throughout. So these batteries that only pull, kind of even out electricity, pull throughout the day. And when there's huge demand, instead of firing up a peaker plant, you would just pull back from the batteries, right? And EVs are part of that solution. If you have EVs that pull at night, like people say EVs will crash the network, but actually they can stabilize the network, because in the at nighttime they're charging at low peak, so they're pulling energy then, and they become storage devices because if they're plugged in during the day, at work or wherever. And when you get a peak demand, they just pull from the batteries of the car. So each one of those cars is actually battery backup. Pretty wild, eh? Texas is doing that right now. That's a pilot they're running right now.
But both of these ideas to me are like, a vision of the future of how, really the world economy and the energy infrastructure that exists today are mirrors of each other, and it's a world where the US dollar, the world's reserve currency, is underpinned by oil. And so everything runs on oil. All of the economic and environmental decisions have to do with oil. And the world of tomorrow runs on data and energy. And I think that, so Bitcoin mining, EVs, it's, they're sort of like two halves of the same coin. Like the AI, they need all this power because they are starting to try and run these massive language models that are going to need just have a never-ending energy consumption, right? So I think that this is another important topic of we're getting left in the dust, or like we're making decisions that are uninformed and will set us back because they're decisions that are 20th century mindset for a 21st century reality.
Yeah, let's just take Elon Musk's his statement, and he's not a guy to take lightly. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's done some things, right? He's done, SpaceX. He's actually launched rockets and caught them. So he's not a crackpot. If you said to BC, I can double your energy input or output without you having to do another Site C dam, wouldn't you say, like, why don't we see what he's talking about? Why don't we just, that's interesting, right? Because even Bitcoin is just storage of energy, right? Because you're collecting energy at off-peak times, and then you can utilize it when you need it. Do you know what I mean? That's all it is, is storage. Because electricity, people should, this is some homework for people, is understand how electricity works versus like gas for your car. So gasoline, like say from Edmonton, it's pumped through a pipeline, and that molecule takes X amount of time to get down here to Kamloops at that, the distribution plant, into a truck, and then, then put into a pump at, where your local gas station. But electricity is completely different. It's a pull technology, right? You know what I mean? It's pulled. When you turn on a light, it pulls electricity. It's not like it's pushed and waiting. It's not stored there. So the Site C dam ramps up and down based on the how many lights go on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing to understand, right? So then what you're saying, back to what you're full circle back, is Bitcoin miners would take energy in off-peak times, kind of evening out the grid, right? So that, you're getting a more consistent, instead of this, you're getting more, an even wave there.
Yeah, and so, instead of getting nothing for that energy waste, like some of it we lost, you're now instead producing this sort of synthetic man-made commodity locally. And that can happen here in BC.
Creates value. That creates value. Exactly. That goes into the economy, and then, people have jobs, and you know what I mean? Like, it creates wealth.
Yeah. And it's, it's hard money. And like we talked about maybe last episode before, like we, for some reason, at an administrative level in this country, just have no understanding of how hard money works. And the Bank of Canada doesn't own a single ounce of gold. And we sold it off 10 years ago. And it's like
Didn't you know it's an antiquated asset? Didn't you know that?
Yeah, totally. Nobody wants it.
Apparently. Everybody in the world seems to think differently. Canada obviously has the secret. They know more than the rest of the world. Except we sold all ours around, I think the last bit was around 1,100. And it's like over 4,000 now. But we were just early, I guess. Yeah, just early to the party. And like this week, even like Germany's opposition party, the AfD, announced a proposal to build a German Bitcoin reserve. And Germany's like in the process of disassembling their entire fleet of nuclear plants. And like even they see the merit of a Bitcoin reserve, and France this week as well. So the two, sort of biggest continental countries in Europe are saying yes, while British Columbia is making this decision on like a hard no. And it's just another, indication of like how things are, how the decisions are being made here. Because it's not just, I think, like, when you do stuff like this, you lose the innovation, you lose the entrepreneurs in that sector, you lose jobs. It's just so short-sighted. Well, I mean, it also fits the MO of some of the decisions that are being made here, though. Do you know what I mean? Like it is I think, like a lot of people, there's two different types of people. There's the people that are always looking for a way to say yes, and then there's people that just want to say no to everything, unless it's already in their head, like it's already in their box, then they're okay with it. But if it's outside of their agenda, then it's just no. The easy answer is no, and they don't even listen. Because, like, again, I go back to the Elon Musk thing. If somebody said to me, "We could double your grid, your output," that's what we're talking about. In BC, they say there's not enough power, and then here's a guy that makes a claim: we can double your electrical grid output without another Site C dam. You would say, "Can we get that guy on the phone? Can we get that guy on the phone?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
Just even to hear him out.
Yeah. It's crazy.
What
it's
we
crazy.
did do, though, he did visit BC because he was looking in Bella Coola for one of those bunkers. What we did do is the Green Party put out a tweet and says we need to annihilate billionaires. I'm sure that made him feel welcome.
Yeah, I mean, and same thing, like this week, it was Tiff Macklem, the head of the Bank of Canada, was talking about another speech around why Canadians need to sort of brace for, normalize the idea that standard of living is going to get worse and that we need to get accustomed to having less. And yeah.
Well, the Liberals and the Tiff Macklem likely aren't going to do with less.
No, the extraction is their specialty.
Extractions are a specialty, yeah. Love it. Yeah, Tiff Macklem pointing out that I'm, again, surprised he still has his job after he told Canadians to go out and get that mortgage, that we won't be raising rates in the foreseeable future, and then raise them in unprecedented fashion 19-fold. The greatest bear trap of all. And also the guy that has no gold reserves, because a lot of the banks were selling gold reserves, to be fair to Canada. A lot of them were selling out, central banks were selling their gold reserves because they were convinced that it was an antiquated asset. But around 2015, most of the central banks reversed course and started accumulating reserves, except Canada.
And we started buying U.S. treasuries. So we actually back our money with U.S. dollars.
And then you put me in touch with a guy that we did a show on economic winter, and I think what Tiff Macklem said is basically an economic winter is going to hit Canada. And I talk a lot about leading indicators and lagging indicators. The stuff that Tiff is talking about is a lot of the lagging indicators, but the leading indicators is investment. Investment into things like Bitcoin mining is an investment. So in the United States right now, according to Trump, $20 trillion of investment in the United States, and that's counting the big ones. That's not counting the small stuff, because we're seeing a huge capital outflow in Canada. So investment is fleeing Canada. That would be a leading indicator saying that the economy is going to get worse. I mean, including Brookfield and Carney's assets have fled Canada.
He's taking as much as he can, as fast as he can.
So Team Canada, the captain of Team Canada, has shown us the way. He's fled Canada for his assets and the company. And then Tiff Macklem tells us to batten up the hatches, prepare for economic winter. And then the leading indicators in the United States are showing that economy is going to boom. I mean, a lot of people, the data you're seeing, like the CPI stuff right now and the labor numbers, that's data from lagging. You know what I mean? That's older data from different things in the system, right? So, when Meta says they're going to build a plant, like an LLM machine or whatever, a data center as big as Manhattan, that's going to create a lot of jobs. And Apple commits to building, I think it was $500 billion. They're going to start manufacturing phones. And, then GM just said they're going to build a new plant, Ford and Toyota, These are all big things. NVIDIA, what Elon's doing, all these things are investments. We're not getting that in Canada. We're getting capital flee. And then, if you're a Bitcoin miner, why would you come to Canada then? Like, why wouldn't you just take it to the United States, right? Less regulation, less taxation, and better permitting.
Yeah, which is just about true of everything, but it's true of Bitcoin mining this week for sure.
I mean, Alberta might be able to attract that because there is some fintech in Alberta for sure. Because one of the things Alberta has is cheap energy.
Yeah.
And you could put a data center in northern Alberta. You get the cooling. Like that's why a lot of data centers are in places like Iceland and stuff like that. You get the cold temperatures.
I don't know if they're moving forward with this, but Kevin O'Leary had
pitched that. Yeah, he pitched it. Yeah. But I think Daniel Smith is now promoting as well. I don't know whether it's fintech, but you could build. And then there is so many companies looking for energy. Microsoft is actually firing up 3 Mile Island. You remember 3 Mile Island, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Microsoft, that's where they're going to get their energy. And Trump said to these AI companies, go ahead and build. Find your own energy though, because we don't got enough. So find some energy. So I'll permit you. I'll give you whatever you want to do, an SMR. You want to do, fire up an old nuclear plant, or you want to like do. He said coal. I don't even care. Like he's saying, find your energy, build your own plant, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. We're going to have to find how to power our robot butlers somewhere, Jim.
Well,
did you see this? The Neo robot that was revealed yesterday?
I saw. Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy. Like with what's going on in the robotics, right, and AI, and people don't understand what's going on in this world, and we seem to have our head in the sand. I just listened to Evan Solomon, our our AI minister here, saying that Canada is the birthplace of AI. Because we have Jeffrey Hinton here, and I interviewed one of the Hinton lecturers here that's going to be here in Toronto in November. Okay, so we have a guy that understands AI, but he's not building anything. Like there's no NVIDIA here, there's no OpenAI, there's no Meta, there's no Google, there's no Tesla. Like these are the Palantir. Like these are the names that are Figure One. Would you call this one Neo? Like all these guys are not in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. I think for the average person, the most important thing that they need to understand in the world of AI is Bitcoin, because AI and robotics, all these things are deflationary productivity explosion enhancers. They're going to create a new wave of efficiency, and it's infinite everything, right? You can produce infinite productivity as AI continues to get better and robotics continue to get better. So the only way to capture financially a measurement of that infinite productivity is with a finite asset.
Yeah, and then I think even seamless transactions is what's going to be the big driver. Like you're talking robotaxi, Elon again in that call said that robotaxi, and I think Morgan Stanley, I think Adam Jonas, I think it's Morgan Stanley, said that this is the watershed moment. It was a couple of days ago. Morgan Stanley said, it's Adam Jonas, I'm not sure if it's Morgan Stanley though, but Adam Jonas said autonomous has been solved by Tesla. That is a watershed moment. So if it's solved, what Tesla says, you have to have seamless transactions. So it should be just nothing. You're just going to get in and it's going to take it out of your wallet, and then you're just going to, you know what I mean? Like it's not going to be with a Visa card and all these things. And if you think about Visa, how inefficient that system is for businesses as well. Yeah. It's 3%, right? 3% each business pays on these transactions. I mean, it's nothing, but that's why these banks make nothing but cash money, right? Because like, look at all the transactional fees that they take. 3% they take off of every transaction.
And the throughput of the Visa network is 25,000 transactions per second. And the Lightning network that runs on top of the base layer of the Bitcoin blockchain is 40 million transactions a second.
Somebody said you push Bitcoin AI shit. You're a government asset, aren't you? I don't know. The government doesn't like us. Exactly the opposite. But anyway.
Thanks for tuning in.
Cool, Joe. But hey, whatever you think, you're entitled to your opinion. That's awesome. And I don't think the Canadian government likes Bitcoin. They don't like gold either. And I'm a big fan of gold. Canadian government does not like gold. Canadian government does not like Bitcoin. Probably one of the few governments that, like obviously the US administration, big fans of Bitcoin. I was not a big fan. When you and I started doing this show, the first season?
Yeah, it didn't take you long though, Jim.
I made fun of it, right? I said, puff the magic dragon stuff, right? Like, like magic dust.
Here we are. Here we are.
I was a hard asset kind of guy. I really believe in gold, and I think everything has its, diversification is the thing. And, we could use what Tiff Macklin said. There's people talking that Canadian dollar could go to 60 cents or lower. I think that would do to inflation here. And then if you talk about Venezuelan event, you can put this through ChatGPT yourself and ask what happened in Venezuela. People lost 98% of their wealth because of that currency.
Yeah. And Venezuela overnight, was a really prosperous, right? It was the most wealthy country in Central America by far.
Yeah. So I mean, what Bitcoin offers and what gold offers, and the USD for that matter, I think those are the three big reserve currencies now. I mean, the Bitcoin is still a small portion of that. USD is the biggest reserve currency in the world. Gold would be, I guess, second biggest reserve currency, and then Bitcoin would be there. For some, like some people are starting to see it as that. You know, a lot of the investment houses now for sure are starting to see it as that. So I mean, that's where the opportunity is, and that's what you've been saying for a while. That's where the opportunity is, because the allocation is still very, very small.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like as gold's market cap has risen, and there's two things that people should be aware of. Like, one is that historically, gold moves first, and then Bitcoin follows. And two, you know, the gold market cap went from, I say, 18 trillion US globally to 30 trillion over the last year and a half. And so gold's market cap around 30 trillion. In a single, I think it was a week, gold added 2 trillion to its market cap. And that's the entire market cap of Bitcoin. So the bigger the total amount invested globally in gold, I think bigger numbers become reasonable for how much could be invested in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin doesn't need to catch gold, doesn't even need to be, if Bitcoin was a third the size of gold, that means we're talking about like a $600,000-$700,000 Bitcoin US.
Like recently, I watch Bloomberg every morning while I'm working out, and I was watching because gold's had a big run here. Gold's had a huge run, and it ran up. I think it was like 4,400 or something like that, and had like a power day there that one last day. And I looked at that and I said, "This is a blow off top." Like you know, you see when a blow off top is, right? So, and blow off tops are technically, you know, like they're going to happen, and that's going to be a setback, and it sure was, right? It dropped $400 like in the next few days, right? And that's what you know. And same as silver. Silver, I think, breached like 53, 54, and then it was a blow off top there too. But unlike the 1980s now, where you had the blow off top, I don't think we're going to see this like there's nothing in it that shows that this is like a complete blow off. This is more of a setback, build a base, and that's what we're seeing with Bitcoin right now, right? It challenged 120. Now it's building a base. The longer it kind of bases in that 100 to 120 kind of range there, and it's kind of like building a base, and then you know, like you get a solid base, and then that's the next springboard for the next move, really, right? So, and I think gold is right now. I recovered $94 today. You know, it's holding the line at 4,000. So you're probably going to build here for a bit, and then you're probably going to see some of that because everything was, maybe some people were selling Bitcoin to move into gold as you know, momentum, like the momentum traders. And then as for that blow off top, some of that money may move back to Bitcoin and stuff like that. Because that's momentum players. They will do that, right? They will move into one asset over the other asset. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Bitcoin, I think you and I talked about this. Like, you know, like if you were playing the buy at 100, sell at 110, let's last a little while, you're probably doing okay if you're a trader, right? If you're a momentum trader. So, but if you're just a investing guy, accumulator, you know, you would buy, you know, the 100s and, you know, like the 110s or whatever, and then you just kind of, or dollar cost average, that's what you do. That's what bring that up.
Yeah, this is like Robert Kiyosaki, you know, Rich Dad. Just buy and keep buying and never sell, and just treat it as a long-term hold. The general trade, you know, philosophy for us is that Bitcoin is something that more people are going to want over time rather than less. That's been true of Bitcoin since the start, and if it continues to be true, it should continue to be, you know, a very handsome, rewarding asset for those who believe in it. And everybody who's held Bitcoin for more than 4 years has done incredibly well. And, you know, we have every reason to believe that's going to continue. So, yeah, so at Block Rewards, we're encouraging people to start thinking about Bitcoin savings plans as an employer-sponsored benefit. And this is a way for people to get into Bitcoin in a way that's safe, allows companies to start thinking about offering Bitcoin inside the spectrum of other things they might want to encourage their employees to do or offer as a benefit for working somewhere. And I think, you know, we're getting tons of great reactions from companies that want to stand out as being different, forward-thinking, and giving people something that's like generally meaningful.
Yeah, it's kind of weighted dollar cost average into, you know, an investment that you want as well. And that wasn't me. So one of the comments here is like $68 silver target. I mean, silver is the the poor man's gold. I mean, silver has been disappointing for many people because, but I mean, again, if you bought silver at $5-6, silver looks pretty good at $50 US.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of talk about a $68 target or more or higher. I mean, there's people that talk about $1,000 silver. I mean, that would be. It is the poor man's gold. People can buy. You can go buy silver maples at Kitco or Gold Price, or there's a number of places. But here's the cool thing that for Scott, and I don't know if everybody else knows this, is Wealthsimple now allows you to buy not only Bitcoin, but Wealthsimple now allows you to buy gold as well.
Oh.
They just added that, so you can buy. I think it's a holding account. It's not actually. I didn't look into, but it's
not redeemable.
Yeah, I think it's like not like a lot of people that buy bullion want to actually hold it in their hands. You can buy it at Costco actually, right? And they can't even keep it in stock, right? So, and they were eliminating the purchase. I think you were allowed to buy 2 wafers or something.
2 ounces a day.
2 ounces a day. There you go. You can almost get yourself a steak. You could buy an ounce of gold or a couple of steaks about the same price.
Yeah,
right?
totally. That's how insane it's gotten.
Yeah. So anything on the I guess the horizon for Bitcoin? Any events coming up on Bitcoin that could drive the price higher? I know there's some targets out there for like 150 in that before the new year, but.
Well, we'll see. MicroStrategy, the largest corporate owner of Bitcoin, they're announcing earnings today or tomorrow. MicroStrategy is in the process of qualifying for the S&P 500, and at that point they would be sort of indexed. We've talked about this before. They issued a series of new securities. They were a number of them were the biggest, most successful IPOs of the year, where they're paying like abnormally high dividends, and they're using those the inflows on those securities to buy Bitcoin. So basically, the premise is, one might pay a 10% dividend. But they take that money that comes in as a result, and they're buying an asset that's compounding at 30 or 40%. So the market's trying to figure out whether or not they will be able to, make this dividend payment reliably into the future. One thing that happened this week that is interesting is that that dividend, because it's being paid out of income, is non-taxable. It's not subject to any kind of tax, which makes a 10% dividend, if you don't pay tax on it, effectively worth sort of 16 or 17%. So Saylor has said, and he's the chairman of strategy, that they're going after the 300 trillion corporate real estate market. And like I said, Bitcoin's 2 trillion. They will hope to get it all. But if they can get 10% of that market, we're talking about 1 million, 2 million. The Bitcoin number is so much higher than anybody can imagine. So I don't know what will happen between now and January 1st, but this thing that's gone on with strategy and the taxation of their dividends is really significant. And the reason why it matters is that there are a lot of entities right now that have a lot of money, sovereign wealth funds, pensions, reinsurers, that can't buy Bitcoin, but they can buy equities and bonds. And so a 10% yielding equity, reliably paying that number out, and that number being also free of tax, is a really significant thing. And if the market starts to believe that that's going to be enduring and reliable, then they're going to start buying a lot of it. And that money immediately gets turned into Bitcoin. So he's basically turned his software company into a Bitcoin refinery. They take money in and they turn it into Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think one of the comments here is he was saying that buying gold 5 years ago was like $1,200 an ounce. I remember buying it in the first Iraq War. That was I think it was 250, 300, 400, something like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, with gold's run now, like gold has outperformed the index like pretty significantly over the last 40 years now. And it's hard to argue that investing, the markets have not, for the amount of risk that comes with it and the volatility, you'd have been better off in gold.
Yeah, and if nothing else, you can do some fillings for your teeth, right? Anyway,
you can get a grill next, Jim, to go with your other gold jewelry.
There you go. How is Ken Sim taking the news? Because he wants to make Vancouver the Bitcoin capital of the world. How do you take the David Eby's news?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't seen a formal reaction from Mayor Sim. So I can't imagine he's happy, but I would guess that he's probably not surprised.
He's going to have to unplug that Bitcoin miner in his basement, eh? Anyway, that's our show for today. And another good show, obviously. And, you know, if you like what you see, share it and it's great. Lots of comments today, so that's good news. All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for watching Now Media.